Dead no more. Patient 0 Chapter 23 T opens up. Ow! Escaped from my lips as T squeezed me and lifted me from my feet. Eli and Joshua looked at each other, puzzled. They then turned their attention to me. Ow! Queried Eli. What do you mean, ow? I felt that, and it actually hurt a little, I said. What the hell is going on? T looked around as he began to piece together what was happening, his intelligence continuing to grow. But in pure T fashion, he grasped the situation and put his own T-spin on it. I'm your antithesis, your total opposite. Is it any wonder that I would be the one person in the world who could hurt you, knowing that I never would? Said T, brother, the world will be waiting a long time for me to go against you. It just ain't going to happen. Is it psychotropic proximity, or amicus optimus that causes his biorhythms to degrade and cancel out the reproduction of my mitochondria? I asked rhetorically. Is it the radiation or the frequency? It's neither, answered T, it's just plain old Mother Nature balancing things out. I love you man, but you spawned something that is truly unnatural and nature is fighting like hell to re-establish a balance. Your ascension was rapid and bursting with life, while mine is slow and steady, and full of anti-life. You're the disease, and I'm the cure. Or something like that. If you're anti-life, wouldn't you be the disease? I smirked as we laughed and hugged again, this time with T reigning in what he called his antithesis field. But to his point, if I was the end result of evolution for humankind, would T be the end result of evolution for the DCs? The hypotheses raced through my mind. Next up was Gerald. He walked up to the door of the chamber and paused. He took a deep breath and turned and faced me. Doc, Marv, how will this change me? I don't want to become a freak, he said with a concerned look in his eye. How do you cope with it? I don't know what is more disconcerting, Gerald, I said. The fact that you don't trust me or that you think I'm a freak. We stared at each other awkwardly for a few seconds and then I cracked a smile. I'm kidding G, I said. Don't think of it as becoming a freak. Think of it as you becoming the ultimate you. Gerald entered the chamber and Eli and Joshua administered the serum. Gerald's mutation was shocking. Tufts of a fur-like substance covered his body. His nasal passages pushed out into a canine-like snout and his ears peaked to above the top of his head. He developed a feral-like visage. His hands became claws and his legs were lupine in nature. But it was his eyes that threw me. His eyes became a crimson color that looked as if they saw through your soul. His mental state was completely animalistic. Day after day, he looked more like an amalgamation of animals and less like a human being. His thoughts were all over the place: hunt, kill, eat, survive, protect, preserve, survive. On day 7, Gerald collapsed in the chamber. I rushed in to tend to his condition. Gerald was slowly but surely reverting to an advanced human state. His vitals were remarkably close to that of T's, in the weight and body mass that he accumulated. Gerald's mutation was unique in that he could trigger an animalistic transformation that added to his already inhumanly hunting skills. Tests proved that he could see and hear through the entire electromagnetic spectrum. He was able to detect things that only I and M could see and hear. His strength and speed surpassed Tank's but was nowhere near mine. He also developed a healing factor that was quite remarkable. Gone was the corporate huntsman I had met so many years ago on that retreat. What stood before me was now a true huntsman in every sense of the word. Oh yeah, growled Gerald in his animalistic excitement. This is what I'm talking about. This is the shit. What about your concerns on being a freak? I asked. What are your thoughts? Fuck being a freak, he exclaimed. I am now a bona fide badass. I can't wait to howl at the moon. Leon was next. Before he would allow us to administer the serum, he wanted to meditate. He sat in the chamber, somber and solemn, for 2 hours without so much as a peep out of him. I could hear his mind contemplating the universe as he steeled himself for what was to come. When he was ready, he stood and faced the door. Leon was never the most talkative person to begin with. He was the exact opposite of T in a social setting in that for the most part, he kept to himself. I mean he was social and even cordial, but not without effort on the part of the person engaging him. I entered the chamber and bowed before my former student, as anyone who knows anything about martial arts is a huge no-no unless you are attempting to convey the utmost of respect. Leon, I really appreciate and respect what you have done here, I said. You've taken a ragtag group of people and turned them into a close-knit fighting unit. Your efforts are to be commended and you should be proud of what you have accomplished. Thanks Doc, he said. Without your training and your leadership, I wouldn't be a tenth of the man I am today. You truly are an inspiration to everyone here. We administered the serum to Leon and again he sat there with his legs crossed, a symbol of concentration and stoicism. Although Leon's height changed very little, his density was off the charts. His bones, muscles and tissues became incredibly dense. Leon reached a top height of 5 feet 11 inches but weighed well over 500 pounds. His density made his skin tougher than carbon fiber and could only be damaged by the nano-scalpels we had. On the 7th day, we realized that Leon could control his density, making him as light as a couple of pounds and as heavy as 3 tons. His increased density directly correlated to his increased strength and toughness, while still maintaining his speed and flexibility. At his maximum density, Leon became as dark as coal and his strength was almost half that of mine. "Doc," he asked, "what happens when the irresistible force meets the immovable object?" It was a question that I had given Leon long ago to ponder when he attempted to center himself. I don't believe he has ever attempted to answer it. "Do you now know the answer, Leon?" I asked. He smiled and looked at me as he began to increase his density. "Nothing." Andre was up next and Diane pleaded with him not to go through with it. According to her, her Catholic faith would find what we are doing an abomination. But for the life of me, as I recall everything I've ever read about Catholicism, I can say with certainty it never once addressed the issue of cellular mutation. "Marvin, you know this is wrong," she said. "This goes against everything that God stands for. Is this the Christ's position or yours?" I retorted. "Because with my increased brain capacity and total recall thanks to my now eidetic memory, I don't recall the Christian faith ever addressing cellular mutation. Because I am a creature of God's own creation, isn't it possible that everything I do is God's plan?" This time I was able to detect the push, and this time it did come from me, as Diane was now agreeing with me. I pulled back my influence to allow her to come to her own conclusions. As she toiled with the circumstance, she was less opposed to it and now just uncertain how that we, as a collective, would behave with our newfound abilities. Andre stepped into the chamber and Eli and Joshua began to administer the serum. Like T, Andre only partially mutated physically. Day after day, his weight and height slowly and marginally increased. A total of 10 inches and 75 pounds. On day 7, Diane screamed. "Where is he? Where is Andre? Did he disintegrate?" screamed Diane. "What happened to him? You killed Andre." The newly mutated ran into the observation area outside of the chamber as their mental acumen added to the collective intelligence to better navigate our new journey. I peered into the chamber and did not understand. Gerald stood right beside me and shrugged when he looked at me. "Is she crazy or delusional?" he asked. "What is she rambling on about?" "I have no clue," I responded. "Clearly he is right there." "Wait, you two can see something in the chamber?" asked Eli. "Because I don't see anything besides the items that are always in the chamber." "This isn't humorous in the least bit, Eli," I said. "Diane is really freaking out. This better not be some practical joke." But I knew it wasn't a joke, because they all thought they saw nothing. It was confusing until Diane screamed again as she believed she saw the blanket floating. "Mirda, it's a fucking ghost," Diane screamed. "What the fuck did you do, Marvin?" I concentrated and realized that light was now refracting around Andre. I theorized that both Gerald and I were peering into the infrared spectrum and were able to perceive him despite the dispersion of light. Andre was for all purposes was invisible. Perhaps the more accurate description was that Andre was a chameleon who was blending into his background. As Andre stepped towards the door, you could see that his aura solidified. Diane ran to the door and pressed up against it. "Are you okay, baby?" she mewled. "Tell me you're okay, baby." "I'm fine. I've never felt better. As a matter of fact, I feel like I could take on Doc." Andre exclaimed. "I feel like I could take on the world." "Calm down, Andre," advised Fred. "You are Marvin's inferior in every respect, physically, mentally, psychologically, experience-wise." "Should I go on?" "Damn Fred, you sure know how to remove an elevated level of endorphins in succinct manner," said Andre. "Does these hyper-intellects mean we have to forego our ability to interject levity?" "It's okay, Andre," I said. "Each person seems to be acclimating in their own way. You now have to learn your new body, your new senses and your new abilities. The good thing is the excess brain capacity allows for accelerated learning." It was at this point that I noticed Em, and she didn't look too hot. "Is it the baby?" I mentally inquired as I noticed a wincing look on her face as if she were in discomfort. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," she reassured me. "But haven't you noticed it's getting a little noisy in here?" Now that she had mentioned it, I did notice that there was an uptick in the telepathic activity. It seems that our new additions to our advanced neural pathways are not yet versed in the proper etiquette of sharing one's thoughts. "Damn, my baby Naomi has a fat ass." If I use a gold, aluminum, silver composite, I could get a 67% increase in efficiency. Is it fair to peep at Diane? I'm going to bag the biggest buck I can find, with my bare hands. I used to be special. But now, it's just like it was before and I'm a nobody again. Who? I thought, when my eyes fixed on Tank. I told Eli that we would suspend the dosages for a few days so that I could spend some time with Tank and Joshua. If you're planning to take Joshua with you, take this, said Em as she pressed a vial of the serum in my hand. Hopefully you won't need it, but it's better to have it and not need it, than need it and not have it. Thanks babe, I said. You take such good care of us. Tank, how would you like to get out with me and Joshua? I asked. I'm starting to feel a little cooped up myself and I can't imagine you feel any different. Tank nodded and we went and found Joshua who was with Jamie. A feeling of jealousy swept over me. It was definitely coming from Tank. But was he jealous of Joshua or his relationship with Jamie? I couldn't quite get a read on his intent. It was much more difficult to get a reading from him if he did not wish it. We still have a lot to learn about these abilities. About their limitations and their weaknesses, especially when being used against, or for one another. Son, are you ready to go? I asked Tank to join us, I said. I think we could all use some time out of these walls. Yeah Dad, I was just spending a little time with Jamie, he said. Ooh, can I come too? Asked Jamie. I'd love to gather some data on yours and Tank's performances. Not this time Jamie, I said. This time is just a boys' day out. Bruh, how are you going to plan a boys' day out without ya boy? Exclaimed a voice from behind me. It was T and he went completely undetected by me. It seems that he seems to be getting a hang of his antithesis field. You know you are always welcomed, T, I said. Your family. Just like Tank and Joshua. Tank looked up at me and asked, me. Of course, you, or family, I said. In a way you are the father of everything that has happened to us. You are our progenitor. Well, to be fair Doc, I would have to give the credit to Eli for that, and he would have to defer to you for his copying of your work, he responded with a smile. I think that is the most I had heard Tank speak since having the pleasure of meeting him. He, T, Joshua and I set out to just get away. In the back of my mind, I was a little concerned about Joshua, as he was the only one who was not inoculated against the bites. We drove for about an hour just to get away from everything that we knew is familiar. You know Tank, I don't even know your real name, I said to him. Do you mind if I ask what your birth name is? Tank looked at me with a scrunched up look on his face as he vigorously shook his head in the negative. Look, I'll make a deal with you. I'll tell you my middle name, I said. Not even T knows that my middle name is Augustus. Like the Caesar, said Tank as he smiled. I like that name. Okay, now it's your turn, I said. What's your name? My name is Taruane, he said. I was named after my grandfather. Everyone used to call me T. Wait a minute, I thought to myself. T was named after his father, even though he wasn't there for him. Could Tank be his nephew? After all Taruane really isn't that common of a name. I looked at Tank and then I looked at T. I really looked. I mean at the cellular level. There, at the Y chromosomes. There is no doubt that they are related on the male side of their lineage. Tank, would you mind if I called you T too, so as to cut down on the confusion as I already know a guy named T? I asked as I motioned to T, you should get to know him. You guys have a lot in common. Yo, T, come over here. As T walked over, T2 remarked how much he walked like his dad. But unlike his dad, T was fun and silly. He made him feel better about himself. Hey T, I think you should tell Tank your real first name, I said. Trust me on this. I walked over to Joshua as the two of them began to chat. I felt the curiosity as T's emotions caused his antithesis field to fluctuate. Through questioning, he was able to piece together what I already knew. His father had another family and Tank, T2, was his nephew. So your name is Taruane, just like mine. Asked T, what was your father like? He was okay I guess, said T2. He was kind of a sourpuss though. He was never happy and I think I was a mistake. Don't say that, said T, without you, Marv would have been a goner. You saved his life and have given us all a new outlook on life. You're kind of like our savior. Wow, I never thought of it like that, said T2. You know, you have a knack for making me feel better. There's a reason for that, 'cause I'm T. T, is it okay if I call you T? Asked T, I mean I don't want to overstep my bounds. The doc suggested T2 to cut down on confusion, said T2. I kind of like it. It makes me feel like we are connected. Well, I sort of wanted to talk to you about that, said T. Did you ever meet your grandfather? He was around when I was a really little kid, said T2. Mostly I just remember him and my dad arguing all the time. I think that was one of the reasons that my dad was so unhappy. Grandpa made him miserable and I think he believed that that was the way to raise a child. Look at me T2. I mean really look at me, said T. Is there anything familiar about me? Think. Well, as I told the doc, you kind of remind me of my dad in some ways. But in other ways, you two are nothing alike, said T2. He was miserable, but you are a happy, lucky kind of person. But now that you mention it, you kind of remind me of my grandpa too. Taruane, I'm your uncle, said T. Your grandpa was my father and although I never met him, your dad was my brother. T2 stood there stunned as T regaled him with the tale of how his father walked out on him and his mom and how he must have started another family that resulted in T2's dad. As T spoke, I felt him begin to relinquish the bitterness and hatred that he hid about his father from everyone but me. The facade that he erected to hide the shame of not feeling good enough to warrant his father's love. He began to understand that T2's father received that love and was miserable for it. T2, do you know what this means? It means we are family, said T. It means that if you will allow it, I will love you like neither of us were loved. T2 grabbed T and lifted him off of his feet as tears began to stream down both of their cheeks. And if I was honest with myself, I got a little misty-eyed myself. It was at that moment that I realized that Joshua had disappeared. I listened for his heartbeat, but I couldn't hear it. I was able to detect his scent in the direction of the tree line. T2, we have a problem, I whispered. We were completely surrounded by the dead and Joshua was missing.